Tottenham folks, just going to do hopefully a quick one this time. Weekly outlook for the upcoming week. So just starting from the monthly down to the 4 hour. Just going to plot my areas where I'm interested in taking opportunities. Just looking at the monthly, just zoomed in a little bit. Clearly see that we're still on the way up until 170. If structure continues to be bullish, I would imagine this will be obtained at some stage. Just zooming out a little bit, clearly see where last week reacted off previous monthly structure, looking left in terms of where we are in the market position. So my overall target is up until this weekly resistance, which you could say is basically almost been achieved, has been achieved. So price is able to close above this and remain above this, I would be confident in saying upside targets beyond 170 would be up into 174 based on structure. Price can close above, respect the structure or even the support, then look for continuation. So I just thought I'd mention that just because it's interesting where we actually came to and where price reacted last week. So dropping down to the weekly, dropping down to the weekly, yeah, just very much bullish. Almost came up into this overall target, so it's near enough achieved. I'm still looking for upside based on the weekly. We're respecting the lows, breaking highs, and we're just continuing. There's no reason to say why price can't continue. Just because it's pushed up for 4 weeks straight doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a resistance form or some form of downside. There is downside within these candles. And just looking at how Friday closed, let me see, yeah, how Friday closed doesn't really look like the price wants to go down just yet. Looking from a structure perspective, this is what it just looks like to me. We're moving up, prices put in a new high, pull back into this previous structure, and now on Friday there was some form of upside. So yes, the candle closed bearish, but are we potentially going to maybe come down some form next week and then continue, so a lower wick, or is price just going to open up in the direction that it closed, which was bullish? So weekly, not very much to talk about, but price is still within this zone on the, or sorry, not in the weekly, on the daily. Price is still very much within this zone, so I'm still going to be looking for plays to fill this, fill up into 169. 4 hour, easy to see. What was very interesting to me on the 4 hour is what has happened in the past week is exactly what happened here. And what I'm sort of looking at when I'm looking at this chart and I'm saying, well, where does it make sense to buy from? Not going to be above, you could argue it could be above this 4 hour resistance, but for me, you're just buying straight into a support. So for me, it's going to be above the support. But what I find interesting is how this structure formed here, where we had a resistance, support, new high, pull back the previous structure, higher support, and then a breakdown. Exact same thing happened over here at this previous structure, where price has put in a higher support. Let me just actually take off the magnet. Resistance, support, breakthrough, new high, higher support, breakdown, and then continuation. So prices then close back inside this previous zone, come back below but failed to continue down, held higher support, and then continued. So if I just replicate this, copy and paste, bring this over to here, it's exactly this, right? Only this area here is down here, this area here is over here. I'm looking for this and for this, so it's the exact same, but where price is trading now at the minute is within this previous zone. So essentially what I'm going to be looking for upside is either price to continue above, come above this support zone here. Let me just mark this up. Support, for our support. Come above that, hold support wherever it wants to, and then complete that. So you can kind of see how when we were at this stage, when we close below, like here, bam, back into, can pose potential reaction areas because we're below the most recent support, which is also resistance. Now this pullbacks came a little bit deeper, but the same thing would apply with me when it comes to buying, because where's the safest area to buy? When price, in my opinion, is within this range, it's quite tough to trade because you're buying within a resistance zone, but you're also buying within a support zone. So overall, it's just one big area. You'll be able to see then on lower time frames within this area how price has reacted when we've been within that. We can clearly see that we've got some form of structure. We've basically closed below the support, formed the support at the resistance, pulled back to the previous support, continued down. From a structure perspective, in here's very nice price action to look for potential buys above this support area here and resistance. So daily, just kind of to go back to that again, there's no reason why this lower wick, or not this lower wick, sorry, the wick of Friday's daily candle doesn't get filled. Or what's to say that there's more downside? That's still a possibility. However, when you flick to the 4 hour, the structure tells me a little bit different. It just tells me that there's potentially likely more upside. But I know where the safest position to buy is. For me, I'm going to be looking at buys above here. I'm going to mark that green. I'm going to be looking for buys also down here, because that is previous structure. So again, I'm just looking at this like this. Now price has broken support. It's pulled back into previous structure, which is this support and resistance zone. So there's a couple of things that can happen in here, in my opinion. Either price forms a lower resistance and completes this triangle of love, which still could pose then options to buy, or what price does is forms some form of higher support at this previous structure point for continuation, or in my opinion, price could also just continue more upside, come above this structure point, and maybe this structure point, and hold support above this structure for price to continue. You know, there obviously is the possibility the price just ranges in here and this just becomes like a new range per se. But at the end of the day, this structure is very much bullish in my opinion. You know, price has validated the most recent support from a swing and a structure perspective, which is here. So that could mean that this is an early sign of change in rotation to the downside, but I'm just going to be waiting for price to show me what it wants to do. The fact that it's closed within this structure here, I would be looking to see this price hold above here, and then can we potentially buy from here up. So this is also going to be an option for buys for me. I'm just going to mark this here, just on the 4 hour. And this will then give me options to buy to play this range, but it will also give me options to potentially look for longer term buys to play the overall bigger triangle, which is this. Because this could be where price pushes, holds support or previous support, and then gets that continuation. Whether the structure continues in that way, I don't know, but this could be early signs for a higher support. We could get a pullback like this. Price comes down below this support because again we're sort of changing structure. Pulls back into this, forms a lower resistance, and then pushes down, and then potentially we can maybe buy from down here, because how many times has price got above and failed to continue lower only to provide further upside? So that's going to be an option for me for buys. Three options planted there based on structure. That you could obviously potentially buy above here, but for me it doesn't really make sense to buy above here into these levels. For me as well, buying above here is going to make sense, because in my opinion, if price is able to get above the weekly resistance, hold structure above, that's going to offer upside to test the opposite end of the range, which is the resistance zone high. That's going to be an area to buy for me. Selling opportunities based on 4R, based on structure, sales are going to be valid below here for me. And the reason for that is because price has changed structure. This could be a pullback previous structure, find lower resistance. So if price is able to close below this 4R support and then find, maybe pull back and find lower resistance, or struggle to continue up and start to break down, this makes sense to me to complete this triangle to the downside. Yes, there is going to be all this in here. You look at it on the order, you're like, oh, it's not really nice price action. But why should I pay attention to that when this is most recent? Do you know what I mean? This is much cleaner, much more recent. That's not to say that any level in here isn't going to be a factor here. Could may well be. But that's not going to put me off taking options, because this is the most recent, cleaner price action that I'm going to be focusing on. So that's going to be options for me to sell in there. Of course, I'm not going to be selling below here, because I'm just going to extend these again. Let me just pull this out here. I'm just going to pull this up to here. The 4R zones, and I'll just do the exact same with these. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pull this one down to this wick here. Essentially, you could, actually, do you know what? That's completely correct, actually, because see where I would be selling from is literally here, but I'm literally selling into this resistance. So it makes sense for me to just extend this zone down to this resistance where it meets the support, resistance support, exactly like this one. Well, not like exactly like that one, but more so like this one, resistance support, just to provide a cleaner visual representation of where it makes sense. So that then, instead of that being below this support here, it's going to make sense below here, because what I'm then looking at is this is structure I'd be playing within, which is this. So if price can close below here, remain below here, form structure below, that makes sense to me. So that's going to be where I'm going to be looking to sell from. That is more so only going to be the only real area for me. The only other option I can think that makes sense to sell is below here. And the reason I say that is just say, what if price actually pushes up at the start of the week and then maybe starts to break down? I don't want to sell in here because I'm selling into a resistance which could become support. So if we break back into this structure, hold lower resistance and fail to continue up and start to break down, that would make sense to me to target this range. 40 pips, 30 or so pips. So that's going to make sense to me as well. But that's only going to come into play if price can't, either if price gets above, fails to continue up and breaks back down, or if price can't get above and just starts to break down. That's going to give me options to then play that. which could then potentially be the overall start of what that could be in terms of this being the triangle. So that's my breakdown of what I'm looking for both buys and sells, and in my opinion where it makes sense. But it all depends on structure. It all depends on feeling to break up and continue and break back into zones, or getting above zones and holding support above key levels and zones. Key levels in terms of what I've plotted on the screen, not actual round figures. So they're going to be my areas to look out for. You can clearly see the structure on the 1R2, quite nice, most recent stuff. So that is going to be that. So what's that, 15 minutes? Probably a record in terms of, excuse me, videos are usually about half an hour. But won't bore you with the comments and stuff in terms of what I'll be writing in there, but that's basically what I'm going to be looking for the upcoming week in terms of areas to buy and sell from, which makes sense to me based on structure.